You know, every morning we do certain things without even thinking. We wake up, grab our phones, check notifications, scroll for a few minutes, maybe drink our coffee or tea, and then rush into our day. It all feels so normal, so harmless. But what if I told you that one of those simple, normal morning habits is quietly speeding up your aging process? Not just your skin, but your brain, your hormones, and even your mood. Most people think aging is just about time, about getting older year after year, but that's not true. Aging, in the way I see it as a doctor, is really about the wear and tear your body and mind experience every single day. And the most shocking part, that process doesn't start when you hit 60. It starts in the tiny choices you make when you wake up, and especially in that one hidden habit we don't even realize is hurting us. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, a woman named Sarah came to see me. She was in her early 52nds, but she said she felt 70 inside, tired all the time, emotionally flat, anxious in the mornings, and unable to focus. She had tried everything, vitamins, gym routines, skincare products, but nothing worked. She told me, "Doctor, I wake up every morning and just feel old." That sentence stuck with me because feeling old is not really about age. It's about how your brain and body communicate. So I asked her to walk me through her mornings, step by step. She laughed and said, "It's boring. You'll fall asleep listening." I smiled and said, "Try me." She started listing it. Wake up, check phone, emails, Instagram, coffee, news, more scrolling, breakfast. If she remembered, then the rush of getting ready for work. Now, this sounded like what millions of people do every day, but here's what's happening under the surface. Something I want you to understand right now. Every time you check your phone first thing in the morning, you're hijacking your brain's dopamine system. Dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward, is like your brain's fuel for joy, drive, and energy. But when you start your day by flooding it with artificial hits, likes, news, messages, your brain's natural rhythm gets thrown off balance. You start your morning in a dopamine spike, and after every spike comes a crash. That crash is what makes you reach for more caffeine, more sugar, more scrolling, and what drains your body's natural energy cycle. Now here's where the aging part comes in. When your brain and hormones are in a constant cycle of high and crash, your stress hormone, cortisol, stays elevated longer. Chronically high cortisol literally breaks down collagen, disrupts sleep quality, and slows cellular repair. It's like rust building up on the inside. So that one simple hidden habit, checking your phone the moment you wake up, actually accelerates both mental and biological aging. Sarah didn't believe me at first. She said, "You mean to tell me my phone is making me older?" And I smiled and said, "Not your phone, your morning relationship with it." That line made her laugh, but also think, because the truth is, your first 30 minutes after waking up are like the software boot up time of your body. Whatever input you give it determines how the rest of your system functions throughout the day. If you start with digital noise, caffeine overload, and anxiety triggers, your body starts running on fight or flight mode, which is the exact opposite of what your body needs for longevity. So what happened to Sarah? Well, we made one tiny change. For the next 30 days, she promised not to look at her phone for the first hour after waking up. Instead, she went outside for light exposure, drank water before coffee, and did 1 minute of deep breathing. 30 days later, she walked into my office glowing, literally glowing. She said, "I don't know how to explain it, but I feel younger." Her energy had returned, her skin looked better, and she said she actually laughed more easily. Her anxiety had dropped by half, and her sleep had deepened. And she said something beautiful, "Doctor, I don't feel old anymore. I feel like me again." That's when it hit me. Most of us don't need anti-aging pills or expensive supplements. We just need to stop aging ourselves faster through unconscious habits. If you're watching this, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. What's the first thing I give my attention to in the morning? Because whatever you give your attention to, you give your life force to, and maybe, just maybe, your body's not tired. It's just overstimulated. So today, we're going to break down exactly how this one hidden morning habit quietly accelerates aging and what you can do starting tomorrow to reverse it. Naturally, without supplements, without spending a single dollar, because the most powerful anti-aging treatment you'll ever find is awareness. Do you know what fascinates me most about human behavior? We can know something is hurting us and still do it every single day. It's not because we're weak. It's because our brain, that beautiful complex organ, was designed for survival, not modern stimulation. And the world we live in now, it's hijacking that design. When you open your phone first thing in the morning, your brain's dopamine system reacts exactly the same way it would if you took a small hit of a drug. Yes, that's right. The same chemical that makes us chase pleasure, excitement, and reward. Lights up instantly. In neuroscience, we call this a phasic dopamine response. Your brain interprets every notification, message, or like as a tiny reward signal. It's unpredictable. Sometimes there's something exciting, sometimes not. And that unpredictability is what keeps you hooked. The same loop that drives gambling addiction or binge eating. Now, imagine this happening not once a day, but dozens of times before you've even brushed your teeth. By the time you're done with your morning scroll, your brain is flooded with dopamine spikes. But your body hasn't earned them. There was no physical movement, no achievement, no sunlight exposure, no real connection, just stimulation. And that's the trick. Stimulation is not satisfaction. Here's the problem. Every dopamine spike must be followed by a dip. It's the law of balance, your brain's built-in homeostasis. After every high comes a low, after every scroll comes fatigue, after every instant hit comes emotional emptiness. That's why, ironically, many people feel more tired after checking their phone in the morning. It's not the lack of sleep, it's the biochemical hangover from digital dopamine. Now here's where aging comes in. When your brain is constantly trying to recover from these artificial highs, your body activates its stress system. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA axis, that means cortisol, your stress hormone, starts firing early in the day and stays high. Cortisol is a double-edged sword. In small bursts, it gives you focus and energy. But when it stays elevated, day after day, week after week, it breaks down collagen, disrupts insulin sensitivity, and interferes with deep sleep. That's the perfect biological storm for accelerated aging. Let's simplify this. You wake up, check phone, dopamine spike, cortisol rise, energy crash, caffeine, sugar, anxiety, poor sleep, repeat. That's not a routine. That's a feedback loop of exhaustion. And yet, most people believe they're just not morning people. But that's not true. They're just dopamine fatigued. When I explain this to my patients, there's usually a moment of silence and then realization. Because we all feel it. That quiet exhaustion that no amount of coffee can fix. One of my patients once said something that struck me deeply. I thought my body was old, but maybe it's just overwhelmed. That sentence carries a truth most people never realize. Your body doesn't age in years. It ages in stress cycles. And every time you start your day in a rush of notifications and caffeine, you add another cycle of micro-stress your body must repair. Sarah, the woman I told you about earlier, came back 3 months later. She had lost the puffiness in her face. Her sleep had deepened. She laughed again, like a spark had returned to her, and she said something that I now share with everyone I meet. I didn't change my life overnight. I just stopped rushing my mornings. That's the power of awareness. That's the secret medicine we all forget. Your mornings are your foundation. And if that foundation is chaotic, no routine, supplement, or diet can save you. But if you protect that first hour, you'll not only look younger, you'll feel timeless. Do you ever wonder why, even when you know something is bad for you, you still do it? You tell yourself, tomorrow I'll change. Tomorrow I'll wake up early, I'll skip the phone, I'll start fresh. And yet, the next morning, the first thing your hand reaches for is the same bright rectangle on your nightstand. That right there is not weakness. That is conditioning. You see, every habit, especially morning habits, is not just a choice. It's a loop, cue, routine, reward. And the morning cue, that buzz, that light, that digital greeting, has become the first dopamine hit of your day. Our brains love loops. They love predictability. And dopamine is like the glue that holds those loops together. But here's the thing. The brain doesn't care if a habit is healthy or harmful. It only cares if it's reliable. So when you check your phone, your brain feels a tiny reward. Comfort, familiarity, connection, even if it's draining you, even if it's aging you. That's why awareness is not enough. You can't just tell your brain to stop. You have to replace the loop. Let me share something I've seen in hundreds of patients and in myself. When we remove an unhealthy habit, the mind doesn't celebrate. It panics. Because the brain fears emptiness. It craves stimulation, even if it hurts. So the key isn't to remove the morning dopamine hit. It's to retrain it. Here's how. When you wake up, instead of reaching for your phone, reach for light. Open your curtains. Step outside for even 30 seconds. Let sunlight hit your eyes, not your screen. That light triggers a natural dopamine release, one that doesn't crash later. It tells your brain, the world is safe, the day is beginning, you are alive. You've just replaced the digital reward with a biological one. That's rewiring, that's real healing. Now, I know what you might be thinking, doctor, it can't be that simple, but simplicity is nature's design. Your body doesn't need more complexity, it needs consistency. One of my favorite neuroscience principles is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Every time you make a new choice, you're carving a new pathway. The first few days, that path feels unnatural, uncomfortable, even boring. That's your brain resisting change. But if you stay consistent for even 2 weeks, your brain begins to prefer the new path. That's the moment your biology catches up with your intention. I remember a patient named Alan. He was 61 years old, a retired engineer. He told me, doctor, I feel like my mornings own me. He would wake up, check his emails, scroll through news, and by 9 a.m. he already felt emotionally exhausted. So we did something radical. We took away his phone for the first 90 minutes of the day. He was terrified. He said, what if I miss something important? I asked him, what if the most important thing you've been missing is yourself? He laughed, awkwardly at first, but then he nodded. 3 weeks later, he came back with a small journal in his hand. He said, you were right. I didn't miss anything important, but I discovered something I had forgotten: silence. He described how, in that silence, he started noticing things again: the sound of birds outside his window, the way his coffee smelled, the feeling of his heartbeat slowing down. And he said something I'll never forget, doctor, I used to think aging was losing things, memory, energy, time, but now I think it's just losing presence. That moment changed the way I see health, because true health is not the absence of illness, it's the presence of awareness. The truth is, aging isn't the enemy. Disconnection is when you live disconnected from your body, your senses, your mornings. You start to fade long before your time. But the opposite is also true. When you reconnect, when you start your day with awareness instead of distraction, your energy returns, your skin glows, your eyes regain their spark. You don't just look younger, you feel alive again. And that, my friend, is not anti-aging, that's pro-living. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, don't reach for the digital world, reach for your real one. Look outside, breathe deeply. Remember, your first choice of the day sets the tone for your entire life. You are not late, you are not broken. You're just waking up in more ways than one. Most people think aging begins in their skin, but in truth, it begins in your cells. Every heartbeat, every breath, every emotion, your body is exchanging trillions of messages at the cellular level. And when those messages become distorted, your cells begin to age before their time. Now, let's connect this to your mornings, because that's where most of the distortion begins. When you wake up and instantly flood your brain with dopamine, caffeine, and digital stimulation, you're sending chaotic signals to your body. It's like waking up your cells with a siren instead of sunlight. That chaos confuses your mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your cells responsible for producing energy. And when mitochondria are confused or stressed, they start to malfunction. Less energy, more inflammation, slower repair. This is what scientists now call cellular fatigue. It's not that your body is old, it's that your cells are tired of recovering from chaos. And guess what? The number one biological marker of aging isn't wrinkles, it's mitochondrial decline. Now, let's go deeper. When you experience chronic morning stress, notifications, news, or emotional triggers, your cortisol rhythm gets inverted. Instead of a healthy morning rise followed by a gradual decline, you get sharp spikes followed by flat lines. That pattern not only ages your skin, but also weakens your immune system, increases insulin resistance, and reduces deep sleep quality. Your body is trying to protect you, but when it stays in defense mode, it can't focus on repair, and repair is the essence of youth. That's why people who live peaceful, consistent morning lives, with sunlight, hydration, movement, and stillness, look and feel younger. Their mitochondria are calm, efficient, and synchronized. When your brain and body are in sync, your entire physiology changes. Your cells repair faster, your hormones stabilize, your nervous system relaxes, and your biological age starts to reverse. I've seen this in my patients over and over again. They come in looking exhausted, not because they're sick, but because they're overstimulated. And within weeks of restructuring their mornings, they start glowing. Yes, glowing. That glow people try to buy with creams and filters. It's just biochemistry in balance. Your skin isn't separate from your brain. It's a reflection of it. When your brain is calm, your blood flow improves, your collagen rebuilds, your cells detoxify more efficiently. Your face literally becomes the mirror of your mind. So when I say the hidden morning habit that's aging you faster, I'm not just talking about your phone, I'm talking about disconnection. Every time you choose distraction over stillness, you send your body a silent message. I don't have time for peace. But the body listens, and it adapts. It begins to age in defense, not in rhythm. The beauty of this story, Jenny, is that it's reversible completely. Your body is not broken. It's waiting for you to give it the silence it needs to heal. Do you know what happens when you spend the first 20 minutes of your morning in quiet light instead of digital light? Your cortisol resets to its natural pattern. Your dopamine stabilizes. Your serotonin begins to rise. Your mitochondria begin to breathe again. Within weeks, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. Your body feels lighter. Your mind feels slower in the best way possible. You stop rushing through mornings and start living them. This is not magic. This is neurobiology meeting awareness. Aging slows when the brain feels safe, and the brain feels safe when your mornings begin with calm instead of chaos. Soft smile. Camera holds for 3 seconds. That's why I tell people the most expensive anti-aging product in the world is useless if your mornings are filled with anxiety, because your thoughts create your chemistry, and your chemistry creates your appearance. Let's go back to Sarah. Remember her? The woman who felt 70 inside? 6 months after she changed her mornings, we ran her biological age tests. Based on mitochondrial function, sleep cycles, and cortisol rhythm, she was biologically 9 years younger. 9 years just by changing her mornings. She laughed when I showed her the report and said, "Doctor, I guess peace really is the best anti-aging serum." And she was right. Peace is medicine. So tomorrow morning, don't rush, don't scroll, don't flood your senses with noise. Instead, take a deep breath, step into the light, drink your water, and tell your body, you are safe, you are strong, you are young. Because aging doesn't begin in the mirror. It begins in the morning, and how you treat your morning is how life will treat you. You know what I've realized? After years of studying the human brain, we don't struggle because we lack willpower. We struggle because we lack alignment. Every morning, our intentions and our impulses fight each other. The part of you that wants peace, focus, and health battles the part of you that craves stimulation, excitement, and escape. And guess which one usually wins? The faster one, the louder one, the one that promises instant comfort. That's the power and the danger of dopamine. But here's what most people don't understand. Dopamine itself is not the enemy, it's the teacher. It shows you what your brain values. It tells you where your attention naturally flows. And if you learn to listen to it, instead of being ruled by it, you can reshape your entire life. Let's look at mornings again, not as a routine, but as a mirror. When you wake up, your first choice isn't just physical, it's psychological programming. You're training your mind to either react or respond. Checking your phone the moment you open your eyes trains your brain to react. You start your day responding to the world's agenda instead of your own. Your nervous system gets hijacked before you even take a conscious breath. But if you begin with stillness, even 60 seconds of quiet breathing, stretching, or gratitude, you're training your brain to respond. That single choice rewires your entire reward system. Reaction is survival. Response is mastery. I remember once during a lecture, a young woman stood up and said, "Dr. Lembke, I know I shouldn't check my phone first thing in the morning, but it's the only thing that makes me feel connected. I feel empty without it." And I looked at her and I said gently, what if that emptiness isn't a void? What if it's the space where your real self begins? She went silent. The room did too, because that's the truth we run from, the stillness we're afraid to face. The reason we stay addicted to stimulation isn't because we love it, but because we fear silence. But silence is not emptiness. It's clarity. It's your mind finally breathing after years of holding its breath. When you face that silence every morning, when you let yourself sit with it without reaching for noise, something incredible happens. Your brain starts healing its natural rhythm. Your stress responses calm down. Your thoughts become clearer, and your sense of control, real control, starts to return. That's where discipline is born. Not from punishment, but from peace. When people say, I can't control my mornings, I tell them, you can, but you've trained yourself not to. And anything that's trained can be retrained. Every time you resist the urge to check your phone, you're strengthening your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for willpower, clarity, and long-term decision-making. It's like doing a mental push-up. At first, it's hard, but then one day, it's automatic. And that's when the miracle happens. The same dopamine that once controlled you now begins to serve you. It shifts from I need a hit to I earned this. And that's where vitality returns, not because you stopped aging, but because you stopped escaping yourself. I want you to understand something very clearly. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are just overstimulated. Your body isn't failing you. It's protecting you from the noise it's been forced to endure for too long. You've been living on borrowed energy, borrowed dopamine, borrowed focus. But today, you can reclaim it. You can wake up tomorrow and choose stillness over scrolling. You can choose sunlight over screens. You can choose to build a morning that heals instead of drains. And when you do, something magical happens. You stop living on autopilot. You start living awake. That's the shift. That's the moment your life turns from repetition to renewal. Sarah, Alan, and hundreds of others who made that shift didn't just change their mornings, they changed their identity, because every new habit is a vote for who you wish to become. And every time you win that small battle in the morning, you're not just resisting a habit, you're reclaiming your future. So tomorrow morning, when your hand reaches for that phone, pause, breathe, smile, and remember, that's not a moment of weakness. That's your chance to practice mastery, because how you start your morning is how you start your life. And life, my friend, is too precious to be lived on someone else's timeline. Your healing doesn't begin with control, it begins with compassion for yourself, for your patterns, for your mind, because once you understand your brain, you no longer fight it, you guide it. And that's how true freedom begins. I want you to take a deep breath with me. Inhale, hold it. Now slowly exhale. Feel that? That's not just air, that's awareness returning to your body. Most of us go through life without truly breathing. We inhale anxiety, we exhale distraction. But this moment, right here, is where healing begins. Healing doesn't mean you'll never feel tired again. It doesn't mean you'll never struggle again. It simply means you've stopped running from yourself, and that changes everything. I've met thousands of patients over the years, doctors, entrepreneurs, students, mothers, people who thought they had lost control of their minds, and they all shared one thing in common. They believed they needed more motivation, more dopamine, more energy, more time. But the truth, they didn't need more. They needed less noise, less pressure, less self-judgment, because sometimes the greatest act of strength is to stop forcing and start feeling. You don't heal by adding, you heal by releasing. Every thought you have, every craving, every impulse is just energy. And when you observe it, instead of obeying it, you take back control of your mind. That's mindfulness in its rawest form, not sitting cross-legged on a mountain, but standing in your kitchen, holding a cup of tea, feeling your heartbeat, and saying quietly, I'm here, I'm awake, I'm enough. That's real awareness. That's real healing. There was a man I once treated. He'd been addicted to work, success, and screens. He told me, Dr. Lembke, I can't stop. I feel alive only when I'm busy. And I said to him, what if you've confused being alive with being in motion? He went silent, and after weeks of stillness, he discovered something incredible. Life was never outside him. It was always inside. He didn't need to chase energy. He just needed to stop leaking it. You see, Johnny, every time we pause, we create space for the nervous system to heal. Every time we step away from constant stimulation, our dopamine levels reset. And when dopamine resets, clarity returns. That's when food tastes better. Relationships feel deeper, music sounds richer, because you're no longer numbing your senses, you're living with them. That's the essence of the healing mind. Not more intensity, but more intimacy with your own presence. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for that phone, reach for your breath, before you scroll through someone else's life, remember the miracle of your own heartbeat. Before you check the news, check in with your soul. You don't need to chase the extraordinary. You just need to rediscover the ordinary and see how extraordinary it really is. Because the truth is, you were never meant to live constantly stimulated. You were meant to live awake. You were never meant to survive on borrowed dopamine. You were meant to generate peace from within. That peace is your original setting. It's your natural state before the world taught you to rush. And when you return to that stillness, your body begins to heal, your mind begins to clear, and your spirit begins to remember who you truly are. Healing isn't a finish line, it's a homecoming, and your mornings are the door back home.